Um, under Nixon and Henry, Dr. Mengele Kissinger, as Secretary of State, President Salvador Allende was assassinated in Chile, and Augusto Pinochet took over. That was a government that we put into power with the help of the CIA. It was also an assassination that got the attention of Congress. And, it was frowned upon after that, if not illegal, to torture people. So we hid behind the law. And so if we weren't going to torture and assassinate people ourselves, we would teach them how to assassinate their own people. And they, as friendly governments, a lot of them right-wing in nature, very fascist by vocation. And for years until 9/11, torture or assassination was the exception rather than the rule. And I don't think it should be U.S. policy to torture and assassinate and commit atrocities. I think that the decision to go to war should be left in the hands of Congress. That's what they're there for. The President of the United States is not supposed to be able to act alone except in cases of state emergency. And if it was such an emergency, what was old Georgie doing, continuing to read stories to children in an elementary school? I mean, this is an age where, buttons can be pushed in seconds that'll wipe out millions of people. So, time's a wasting there, Georgie. Get up off your ass and defend the country. Perhaps he already knew what was going down, and so he wasn't going to work himself up into a recovering alcoholic sweat. It's really a shame to think about, the things that my father, who was a 30-year Navy man, a Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, he taught at the War College. He believed, in the promises of Lady Liberty. My dad was a very patriotic military hero. And I'm glad that he didn't live to see what we were doing. He used to tell me as a kid, the one thing that separated us from those animals in Germany and Japan, which is what he considered the enemy, the one thing that separates us is our humanity. That we don't torture people and put them into concentration camps. And of course, my father, in his ability to engage in some denial, had forgotten that a few 100,000 Japanese folks were put in United States concentration camps. I guess compared to what Homeland Security has developed now, home away from home for whoever the enemy is in the future, I guess these are palaces compared to what people had to live in, the Japanese folks, during World War II. A lot of them were American citizens. And that was purely racism that caused us to lock them up. We didn't lock up too many German American citizens or too many Italian American citizens. It was just the Japanese, because they were more dangerous, because they ate with chopsticks and liked to eat raw fish. That was it. They're strange. They got to be alien lizard people because they eat raw reptiles. Or fish, or octopus and squid that isn't cooked. That's got to be it. They can't be ordinary meat and potatoes Americans. Our policy, a lot of it has been based on prejudice, and it continues to be so. You know, there are a lot of magnificent Muslims out there. And people forget, you know, in my world, the esoteric, the metaphysical, the mystics world, you know, we know about the Sufi Muslims. These are the magical Muslims, and they're persecuted in their own country. You know, so people who want to read, and that's something that I encourage, you know, people's way out of the wilderness of ignorance is self-education, and people need to do that. It's really a shame it took President Bush so long to read books on, for example, the Algerian conflict, where they had a surge and all of this. He waited until nearly the end of his term to educate himself on the different kinds of Muslims. But the point is that, you know, through all of this ignorance and fear that was generated by the neocons mainly, you know, people perceive the enemy that isn't there, and they don't see one that is. And the biggest enemy of America is ignorance. So, you know, I'm hoping that with the closing of Guantanamo Bay and going back to some of the policies that we had before, where we weren't so quick to torture people and assassinate leaders around the world, I'm hoping that we will redeem ourselves in the perception of the rest of the world. And, you know, with all due respect to people that say, oh, we don't need them. Well, yes, we need each other. You know, these globalists have created a world in which we are interdependent on one another. So with that financial and economics interdependence, which has caused us a lot of problems, we need to find a common set of rules, you know, a Bill of Rights of commonality, if you will, where everybody is on an equal footing. You know, in shaman speak, I neither walk in front of nor behind, but beside the people. And that's what leaders around the world have got to start doing. You know, I hope that we will abolish the use of torture, and that it will no longer be sanctioned by the state. Because if it continues, we are going to be the great Satan to more people than we are right now, and it is going to cost us in blood, sweat, and tears, that which comes with war, if we don't wake up and smell the coffee. My name is Joost Lundberg. I am a shaman and performance artist known as the Fairy King, and with all the peaks and valleys of it, have a wonderful life. Thank you for listening. Namaste.